Although most people believe that spies are a phenomenon that originated from the Cold War, they actually exist for hundreds of years. In this video, we will present you with the list of the 10 most famous spies of all time. Alan Pinkerton. Alan Pinkerton was a Scottish detective who introduced many spying techniques that are still used today. He was the first detective to overshadow his target, and his covert operations, which he called role interpretation, helped shape modern espionage. In Chicago in 1850, he founded the Pinkerton National Detective Agency, which was hired by numerous railroad companies to protect transportation. His team was well known in the 19th century, and they were best remembered for participating in the surveillance and capture of several well-known criminals at the time. During the American Civil War, Pinkerton helped the Union Intelligence Service, and was a close associate and advisor to Abraham Lincoln. He helped thwart the conspiracy to assassinate Lincoln in 1861 by appointing agents within the Confederate Army, and was even on a secret mission as a Confederate officer to report on military movements. Klaus Fuchs, a German theorist of physics, and an expert in the technology of making the atomic bomb, Klaus Fuchs supplied the then USSR with numerous important secrets about weapons while working as a scientist for the American government. He made several valuable discoveries in the field of nuclear physics, and participated in the famous Manhattan Project, which led to the creation of the first atomic bomb. As a young communist, he was recruited by the KGB in 1941, and so for years he passed on to the Soviets information about the technology of making the bomb and the state of American weapons. He was arrested in 1946 after Allied intelligence broke the Soviet code. During interrogation, he admitted that he worked for the Russians. In 1950, he was sentenced to 14 years in prison for supplying the Soviet Union with numerous secret information about weapons during the Second World War, and after his release, he lived in Dresden. Although not as well known as the couple Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, the secrets of the atomic bomb revealed by Klaus Fuchs had a greater impact on Russian knowledge of the American nuclear program and even helped them develop their nuclear weapons. Elizabeth Van Leeuw. Elizabeth Van Leeuw was a spy who worked for the Union during the American Civil War. She worked pretending to be a charity associate. She was allowed to enter the infamous Libby prison in Richmond, where she brought food and other necessities to Union prisoners. There, she collected information about the movements of the Confederate Army and passed it on to the American forces. It also operated within a small spy circle based in the Richmond area, which included several senior Confederate government officials. There were even rumors that she allegedly managed to get former slave Mary Bowser into the White House of the Confederacy as her informant. After the end of the war, Van Leeuw was considered by Captain Grant to be the most valuable source of information from the Confederate capital. Together with Belle Boyd on their side, she was remembered as the most famous spy from the Civil War, and placed in the Hall of Fame for Military Intelligence Service. The film Traitor in My House was made about Elizabeth Van Leeuw in 1990, and her character was played by Mary Kay Place. Aldrick Ames. While most spies are engaged in covert operations for political or ideological reasons, Aldrick Ames worked as a CIA agent for purely financial reasons. Ames worked as a counterintelligence analyst in Washington. As he desperately needed the money, he began selling information to the Soviets, from whom he allegedly recovered over $4 million. Over 9 years, he revealed countless secrets to the Russians, including the names of over 100 American informants who had worked in Russia, at least 10 of whom were later killed. He spent the money he earned on a luxurious way of life, which in November 1989 attracted the attention of his colleagues. When the CIA later became 100% aware of the information leak, Ames underwent polygraph examinations. Thanks to good training, he managed to pass the lie detector several times. However, although he passed them, he was eventually arrested on February 21, 1994. When asked how he passed the tests in the past, he said there was no special magic there. He admitted to working as a mole and was sentenced to life in prison. Interestingly, at least $2 million remained in the undiscovered bank account, and the Russians still refused to return the money to the American authorities. Richard Sorge. Richard Sorge, considered one of the most skilled spies of the 20th century, was a Soviet master of espionage who worked around the world before and during World War II. For most of his career, he worked secretly as a professional journalist, traveling throughout Europe and gathering information about the possible spread of communism. After the outbreak of World War II, Sorge traveled to Japan disguised as a Nazi supporter, and began sending valuable intelligence to the Soviets about the Japanese and German military operations. He warned them of the attack on Pearl Harbor and even provided the exact date of the start of Operation Barbarossa, as well as the information on countless other military missions. However, Stalin simply ignored the mass of his data. The Japanese captured him in 1944, and although he never admitted to being a Soviet spy, even during torture, he was soon hanged. The Soviets did not recognize him or his work until 1964, when he was declared a national hero. Sidney Riley. One of the main models on which the character of James Bond was designed was Sidney Riley, a top spy who worked for several governments in the early 20th century. Known as the Ace of Spies, Riley was an expert on fraud and personal promotion, so many facts about his life are shrouded in secrecy. What is known is that he was a master of disguise, and that he often crossed state borders under different names, and his task was to come up with military secrets, construction plans, and prototypes of airplanes. He was also known for his cheerful character, and often used his charm to seduce the wives of politicians and military personnel. He gained fame thanks to the fact that the British journalist Bruce Lockhart published details about his failed attempt to overthrow the Bolshevik regime in Russia in 1917 as the leader of the British intelligence group. He took part in carrying out an unsuccessful coup that led to the assassination attempt on Lenin. However, his group was exposed and he narrowly escaped arrest, taking the identity of a German and managed to escape to Finland. The Russian government sentenced him to death in absentia. In 1925, in a secret operation, he was lured into the Soviet Union and arrested. Although he never admitted to being an undercover agent, he was sentenced to death by firing squad. Fritz Jobert Duquesne. Fritz Jobert Duquesne was a writer, soldier, and adventurer who gained the fame of a German spy during the First and Second World Wars. As a young man, he fought against England in his native South Africa during the First and Second Boer Wars, and from 1899 to 1902. During the Second Boer War, Duquesne was captured and imprisoned as many as 3 times, and each time he escaped. On one occasion, he infiltrated the British and became an officer, only to sabotage them. This experience helped him to instill in him a hatred of everything English. After the outbreak of World War I, Duquesne began working as a spy for the Germans. He planted several bombs on British ships. He was arrested in 1917 and extradited to New York. But after 2 years in prison, he managed to escape by cutting the bars in his cell and descending the prison wall with the help of a ladder. He disappeared for a while, working as an associate journalist. He even wrote his biography then, before returning to his old job when World War II began. His spy days ended on June 28, 1941, when he was arrested along with 32 other German secret agents. And in total, they were sentenced to more than 300 years in prison, at the largest trial of spies in American history. Nathan Hale. Many consider him the first American spy. Nathan Hale was a soldier in the Continental Army when he volunteered in 1776 for a dangerous intelligence mission behind the enemy line. Hale, who was only 21 at the time, came to New York in disguise to report on the movements of the British Army. But after the city fell into British hands, he was found by a British officer and arrested. Although espionage was not so widespread at the time, Hale was accused of being an illegal fighter and hanged a few days after his arrest. It is said that before he was killed, he uttered the famous sentence, "I am sorry that I have only one life to give for my country." Those words, in addition to spying, brought him an impeccable reputation as a hero of the Revolutionary War. And in 1895, he was officially proclaimed a hero of Connecticut. Even today, his statue stands in front of the CIA headquarters. Kim Philby. Perhaps one of the most famous double agents of the Cold War, Kim Philby was a British spy, a world traveler, who was actually a socialist by choice under the control of the Soviet KGB. During his career, which led him into Spain, Africa, the United States, Istanbul, and Moscow, Philby gained a reputation as one of the most capable spies, who sent secret information to the Soviet embassy in Paris all the time. In the late 1940s, he was given the task of being a mediator between the British and American secret services in Washington. During the time, he passed on significant information about American weapons and stockpiles of atomic weapons. Many believe that his reports had a great influence on Stalin's political decisions, and that they led to the beginning of the Korean War. The British intelligence services suspected that he was a spy, but they could not prove anything, so he remained in the drawers of their services for a long time, until he fled to the Soviet Union in 1963. He continued to work within the Soviet Secret Service until he died in 1988, when he received numerous posthumous decorations from the Russian government. Matahari. Dutch dancer Margaretha Gertrude Zell, better known by her stage name Matahari, conquered Europe with her exotic dance in the early 20th century. At the age of 27, she ran away from her husband from her native Netherlands to move to France. She was tall, attractive, and skilled in Indian dances, and appeared almost naked on the stage. In Paris, she began working as a dancer, stripper, and expensive prostitute. When the First World War began, various military services inquired about her. She spied for Germany and then for the French. She was chosen as a spy because she easily reached high-ranking people from the army and politics. And as the Netherlands was a neutral country, it was able to move freely across borders. She traveled to Europe for several months, and her frequent movement attracted the attention of the British intelligence service, which began to suspect that she was an enemy spy. She was interrogated while passing through England, but no evidence was found with her. A year later, Matahari sank even deeper into the intrigues of war. Intelligence officer Georges Leeuw approached her in Paris with an offer to spy for France, aware of the fact that she was allegedly a German agent. She was engaged to Vladimir Damazlov, a 21-year-old captain of the Russian army at the time. She wanted to earn money to start a new life with him, so she accepted Leeuw's proposal. In November 1916, she ended up in Spain, in the arms of Captain Arnold Hale, who allegedly told her all about secret plans for the German occupation in Africa. She spent several months in detention, and while she spoke honestly about her promiscuous lifestyle, she insisted that she not engage in espionage. "Courtesan, I admit," she said. "A spy, never." Despite the lack of evidence, the prosecution blamed this fatal woman for the death of thousands of soldiers, and in the end as the greatest female spy of the century. She was convicted and shot on October 15, 1917. However, her actual engagement in the role of spy has never been confirmed. Many believe that she was used as a scapegoat, as well as that her statement in court was manipulated if necessary. Matahari, an erotic dancer who lured the size of men across Europe, has taken a significant place in world culture. Over 250 books, many ballets, and films are inspired by her character. Matahari was also played in the film by the same name in 1931 by the film diva Greta Garbo, and later by many others. Even now, a century later, it is impossible to dispute the fact that she is still an inspiration to many artists. We see that spies have existed for many years, and that many countries, thanks to such people who are ready for anything, come to several important information. Write to us in the comments of your opinion on who you think was the biggest spy. Like the video if you like the topic, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video with some new interesting story.